Salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry for the delay. We were in there playing rock, scissors, paper to decide who was going to go out and shovel.
There's 5 of us, so we had paper, rock, paper, scissors, lizard,
Took a little while, yeah, it took a little while. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws, 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2015 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2014, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mrs. Larry?
Here.
Ms. Leventhal?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. Whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desired this governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Ms. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I apologize for getting out here late. We had a few items in close that we had to address around personnel and some contractual issues. So tonight we have we're going to have our first public comment period. After that, we'll have our Board of Health meeting, which is a monthly meeting. We then have introduction of, I believe it's 4 or 5 new ordinances, right? 6 new ordinances. Tonight's a big new ordinance night. The first new ordinance we're going to be introducing has to do with signs, and the second also has to do with signs. Is that correct, or no? I'm sorry. Second has to do with rental properties.
The third has to do.
And the third has to do with signs. These are signs you put on your lawn. The fourth has to do some parking ordinances, some changes. The fifth also has to do some left turn hand ordinance changes. And the sixth is an ordinance executing a financial agreement with the Maplewood Urban Renewal LLC and granting a tax exemption. Then we're going to have 3 discussion items: the 2015 capital budget, the Open Space Trust Fund project recommendations, and the 2015 operating budget, township budget. We'll then have our consent agenda, which we have a number of agreements for purchasing, tires, diesel fuel, tree removal services, appointing a public defender, extending period of negotiation with Maplewood Urban Renewal LLC, and also another one with Maplewood Redeveloper LLC. We're awarding a contract to Phillips Price Greigel. We're appointing 2 probationary firefighters, approving bills and claims, contracts for public safety video camera equipment, and mowing of large turf. We're also going to be doing an emergency appropriation of our budget and a change order for 60 Woodland and computation of reserves for our uncollected taxes and cancel an unexpended balance in capital ordinance. Then we'll have our second public comment. We'll have administrative reports from elected officials, and then we will adjourn. After we adjourn as the Township Committee, we will meet as the local Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, and we have a hearing. It's a person-to-person transfer of Boyden Pantry to Wine Barrel Maplewood LLC. So that's the rundown for this evening. And the first item is public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? We just ask to give us your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Eric Shorter. I'm 180 Jacoby Street, and I'll keep this brief. That is quite the rundown you have on your agenda, Mayor DeLuca. So I just wanted to put it on record that we discussed with the Environmental Advisory Committee some concerns regarding Avalon Bay. I've further received a lot of notice from folks outside of the township, including Alex Hecht, who I know spoke with you, Mayor DeLuca, and he reached out to me with his concerns. My issue is certainly not to rock the boat or delay or protract any further issues concerning how we move forward with the development of the site. My concern is the environment. My concern is always that we act in the most responsible manner possible as a township. I think it behooves us to look forward to great things happening on that site and the further development of the Springfield Avenue corridor for Maplewood. So without rocking the boat, I just want to put it on record that I urge the Township Council to very closely look at Avalon Bay as a developer. I've seen the leveled concerns. I've seen the list of violations. I'm concerned as a citizen, I'm concerned as a member of this township, and I just want to make sure that we do our best possible diligence with regards to the PSE&G site. So that said, have a great evening.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Please
Thanks for
move
coming
forward.
down.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee?
Good evening. My name is Amy O'Mara. My address is 17 Salter Place, and I'm here representing the Maplewood Green Team. The Green Team Advisory Committee met last night and approved the following statement to be delivered to the Township Committee regarding the structure that ultimately occupies the post office site. So first, the Green Team would like to applaud the sustainable design section of the redevelopment plan, and particularly the section which states that the development shall meet the United States Green Building Council's LEED design requirements. The plan goes on to say that the township encourages the redeveloper to exceed the certified status by accumulating additional points and higher ratings. The Green Team urges the Township Committee to encourage the highest rating possible and to give this the highest priority as against other trade-offs. Second, related to that, we also applaud the Township Committee's commitment to encourage cool roofs, green roofs, and solar collectors on top of the resulting structure. The Green Team is of the definite opinion that among these alternatives, solar collectors are of the highest value. The village is in an ideal location for solar installations, but as of yet has none in place. We believe that Maplewood has a huge opportunity to develop a flagship green building at our town center, demonstrating leadership in the adoption of technologies including solar, which are critical to tackling our town's growing environmental footprint. The new building will hopefully enjoy a long history at our town center, and investments in efficiency and renewable energy have the potential to pay off significantly, while also encouraging similar installations throughout the village. There's no more important action item in the fight for long-term sustainability in our town than the encouragement of renewable energy adoption. We urge the Township Committee to use its best efforts to achieve a solar installation at the post office site, and we stand ready to aid you in providing relevant information that may be helpful to achieve this. Thanks.
Can you either send us that or give it to the clerk?
Sure. This is my personal
Okay,
email.
can you just...
So I would be happy to
Yeah,
email
just
a
shoot us
copy.
an email,
Sure.
and then I will share it with the developer and ask to get some feedback from him.
That'd be super. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Good evening, Julie Martini at 12 Briarcliff Court. I'm a little disturbed by the fact that you're taking public lands that's owned by the township and basically building luxury houses, luxury housing. But I have a question for you. Outside of the 4 units at the station house and I think the 16 units in Maplewood Crossing, what other affordable housing units do you have in Maplewood?
We have on our website our housing and fair share plan, which describes all of the units that we have, including the units on Irvington Avenue.
Exclusive of the senior housing?
I'd have to take a look at the plan. You can look at the plan, but the numbers are there. The most recent numbers we have is there have been 21 affordable housing units that have been built.
That have been built, so
Yes.
there are
In
21.
in the near past, since Maplewood Crossing has gone up.
Okay. You know, I came from Summit, which has 2 affordable housing complexes with a total of 70 units. I believe they were built in the 70s and the 80s. How did you avoid the mandates for building low-income housing at that time?
I wasn't here.
You weren't here. I see, but if you were,
That's
it would have been built.
I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's accurate. I think that the township, I don't know what Summit did, but the township did enter into an agreement to allow the units going up on Irvington Avenue. That was a process. And also, when Winchester Gardens was converted and was built there was a contribution made to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
When Jennifer Lane
When
was
Jennifer
built.
Lane was done, there was a contribution to the Housing Trust Fund. There's two.
What's a housing trust
Well,
fund?
I was going to say, there's 2 components of affordable housing responsibility in the state.
Okay,
One is the creation of new housing,
okay,
and one is the creation of, or one is the rehabilitation of existing housing. For people who live in town, who meet the income qualifications, that have life safety issues with their house or their apartment.
Okay.
So we have been working on this dual track of fixing up houses. We don't do it ourselves. We work with we have an agency, Community Grants Planning, and they work with individuals. They qualify the individuals who apply based on income, size of family, and income. They're the COA family income for our region, and COA is the Council of Affordable Housing.
okay.
And the units are rehabbed by a private contractor. They're inspected, the contractor's paid. We provide up to $20,000 in rehab funds. And then there's a restriction for 10 years. 10 years that you have to live there. If you sell the property, you have to pay us back. If you live there for over the period of time, then you don't have to pay us back. If you live there, if you sell it after a certain amount of years, you have to pay us 100%, 80%, 60, 40, 20. So that's the rehab component. In addition, there's the new component, and so since the Maplewood Crossing has been built, we've built there's been 21 affordable units built in the community. And I believe we've done somewhere in the vicinity of 50 houses on the rehab side.
And we have demographics, we have a population of 24,000 maybe? That's really a tiny fraction?
Well, actually, according to COA, we do not have a requirement to construct new units.
We don't have the required
We do not have a requirement to construct new affordable housing units.
because,
That's their formula that they use.
Because we're fully built out.
Because we're fully built out,
Really?
and we have met the requirements. Now, you are discounting the 85 units on Irvington Avenue that are
well, because they're
seniors.
for seniors, right?
But they count. In addition, group homes, we have a number of group homes
I know you
in the
do.
community. They also count. And so that's why I suggest if you want, you would get more information than you'll ever need to know from the housing element and fair share plan. There's a lot of good tables in there that'll show you all of both the new units and the rehab units that we did. And there's also, we're doing Mr. Carrera isn't here, but we have to every year, I think once a year, maybe twice a year, we have to do a monitoring report. So when we do that report, we'll also put it up on the website so to show people. But we're up to date on what we're required to do, except for we have a 91 obligation on the rehabs. 91 units we have to do. More. So when you multiply that by $20,000, that's $1.8 million.
A lot of money.
So we have a particular interest in putting some more money into that fund so that we can help Maplewood residents who are working people and, low-income folks stay in their community, stay in a house that meets health and safety issues.
Okay. I have a couple of questions on your ordinances. What's an in-lieu tax agreement?
Oh, in lieu tax
When you say
agreement.
in lieu, I say in lieu.
In lieu of tax agreement is often called a pilot. It's a payment in lieu of taxes, and basically it's a agreement that's permitted under areas that are in need of rehabilitation, and it basically is a method of allowing a tax deference for a period of time to allow a builder to develop a project.
Tax deference, not a tax abatement.
What is a tax abatement?
Okay.
It's a tax abatement.
Okay.
Okay. And then Maplewood Redevelopment LLC is Maplewood Redeveloper LLC. Is that the actual name of the company, or is that just a placeholder?
No, that's the name of the company.
That's the name of the company. Okay. So if I Google them, I'll be able to find out who they are.
Probably not.
Probably
If you
not.
no, I think I'm not sure if it's in this one or it's in the resolution. It's a subsidiary of Avalon Bay.
Oh.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, okay.
You know, we've heard a lot of.
It's a subsidiary of Avalon Bay. Because it's in a redevelopment area, and generally in all of these redevelopments, there are specific single entity limited liability companies that are created for these projects. And it's not a secret, it's a subsidiary of Avalon Bay.
Okay, and you're still going with them even though you've gotten a lot of information that they may be dicey.
We've had meetings with people, we've done our due diligence with them, and we feel, at least I feel confident in moving forward with them.
Luck. Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Okay, we will have another public comment at the end. We have our monthly Board of Health meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by the mailing of the annual notice of regular meetings for 2015 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2014, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Ms. Leventhal?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mrs. Larry?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the Maplewood Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Health of the Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions at all of the Board of Health meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larry?
Yes, thank you. And welcome to the March Board of Health meeting. Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal? Yes. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larry?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rowe, if we could have your report?
Just one change to the numerical part of my report. The deaths should be 10 instead of 2 on the front of the numerical report. I just want to quickly report that we did the human papillomavirus movie last week, and it wasn't a big crowd, but it was a good crowd. And we got people who, and other public health professionals who were going to help advertise the movie, and so we're going to continue working on this to increase awareness of this particular vaccine and this particular disease. And so I'm optimistic, and you will be seeing things in the coming months. We received word from the Bank of America on Jacoby and Springfield. They're going to let us come one time. because they want to see whether it's going to be disruptive to their bank operation or not. So we'll be meeting with the bank manager probably in the next week and set up a time, and we're going to make sure it runs smoothly and efficiently, and that they'll be very pleased with it, and so that we can continue working with them. I think it could be a really good place to do screenings. I suspect a lot of the people who don't go to the bank don't go to their doctor regularly, so they could really benefit from this. So
I've waited online there, and I would need my blood pressure tested after waiting. It takes a long time, but it's actually a very nice, well, you've been there, so they're going to give you a very nice room in the back there.
yeah, they have some
right?
private rooms,
Yeah.
and hopefully it'll be good. I think I'm excited. I think it'll be
Are you
great.
doing it on a Saturday? Or you don't know?
I don't think so on
It's
Saturday.
very
'cause they're
busy on
on
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, they listed days they did not want us to come.
Okay.
And those were their busy days.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
we can also advertise there too at any time. Just for your information, I report how we've been pursuing this file of life with different senior groups. And part of what we give out is a healthcare directive for people who are maybe living alone and elderly, and if it lists what kind of procedures they might or might not want done if they're sick, and it also designates a medical proxy. So these are things people don't always think about a lot, but they're very important when you get old. When you get old, it's something we're all going to face. And so I just wanted to give that to you so you kind of understand some of the information we do with these adult clinics. And finally, in your report is a report from the Associated Humane Society and also Furry Hearts. That's in the report I gave you today. So that is my report.
Thank you. I just have one quick question. In the report from actually I have several questions, but the first one is from the Humane Societies. If I'm reading this report, they picked up no dogs or no cats in February. Is that what this report is saying?
That's what it says, yes. One cat, well, no, one dead cat. No live cats. What we did this month was Furry Hearts has requested that when I get complaints about stray cats, because they have a special interest in cats, that I call them first to see if they're interested in rescuing the cat and adopting it. So they've expanded beyond just trap, neuter, and release. They're also a cat rescue organization.
I saw
And
that.
I think the Furry Hearts report shows that they adopted out, well, just quickly, almost 20 cats this month. So they've been very active in that regard, and that's fine. If they can adopt them out, I'm just as happy that they do it rather than the Humane Society. Keeps it local also.
With regard to Furry Hearts, I see, did everyone get this report on Furry Hearts? Thank you for this. I see that if I understand this report, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 active and registered cat colonies. Is that how I'm reading this?
Yes, you're reading that right, and there's also several more that probably will be registered in the next month or so.
Okay. When we contracted with Humane Societies, we discussed them helping us out with the overall counting of cats, tabulating of cats in town. Have we continued that conversation with them? Are they going to do that for us?
I haven't asked them to count the cats, but what they have been very good about is helping with the spay-neuter part of the program. Their van actually went to Puppy Love for a special spay-neuter day, and of course they were here at the town hall. And so I'm really pleased with that part of it, because that's That is perhaps the essential part of the program, is spaying and neutering as many of these cats as we can. And so they've been a tremendous help in that effort.
Okay, great. I would, Jill, though, just caution you that part of one of our benchmarking pieces is inventorying cats. So
Okay.
I would ask that we, or you and Furry Hearts, not lose sight of that.
I will talk with them about
Great.
going to the colonies.
Any other questions for Mr. Rowe? Mr. Ryan?
Sorry, I'm not exactly sure if this is a question for you, Mr. Rowe, or maybe it's a question for Mr. Manning, but we're in the middle of trying to negotiate an agreement for shared animal control services. It seems like this would be an appropriate time to just get a status update of where we're at with that for the public's benefit. I don't know if that's Mr. Rowe.
Sure, I'll comment on it, that we did get the draft RFP from South Orange. I distributed, I asked for comments. Mr. Rowe made several comments. I sent them over to South Orange. I spoke with the administrator today. He said they are working on revising the RFP to include, those comments. So we're moving along with that. We'll also be sitting down with them in the near future to talk about the future of the building itself and how that is going to play into the RFP and our relationship with them and animal control services. So there's a lot of different parts that we're working on, and it is moving slowly, but it is moving forward.
Great. Thank you very much. I just thought the public would like to hear that in the context of this, especially since we were talking about Furry Hearts.
Thank you. Mr. Brownlee?
I just wanted to pick up on Mrs. Larrier's point. The purpose of the pilot program with Furry Hearts was to reduce the number of cats. That was the purpose of it, and that's what we approved the pilot for. So we, or Associated Humane, not Furry Hearts, needs to count the number of cats so that we can ascertain whether or not the pilot program is effective. I said it before in the beginning, someone other than Furry Hearts counting the number of cats. So if you haven't already asked Associated Humane and we don't have the resources to do it ourselves, then we need to ask that question, because at this point we do not have a benchmark. I appreciate that they're spaying and adopting out and doing all these things, but until we have a starting point, we have no way to evaluate against the basic purpose of the pilot, which is to reduce the number of cats.
I understand.
Any other questions? I actually think that was my point, but you got that point, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just wanted to let you know that we will be doing Talk to the Township Committee at the Jacoby Street Bank of America on Saturday, April 18th. So if you were to do something after that, we could advertise.
Okay.
If you do something before, that's fine, but we're going to be out there. No, I understand, but we can let people know that you're going to be there a Thursday or something like that. Because it's going to be hard to reach people. So people who go to the bank is the best way to reach them, unless you're going to go there and day before. So
Right. So if we had a successful first time and they said looks great, and we were there every month, then you could talk about it when you're there in April.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that if you do go back a date after April 18th, we will be there and we can be an arm of communication to people that you will be there in May or you will be there whenever.
Understood.
And I just want to, I know it really is not your department, but I just want to say kudos to everyone for the planned St. Patrick's Day party over at the senior building. I think that's a resource that we don't use enough. We have a captive audience there. I guess that's not really the word to use, but these are folks that we want to reach, and I think we've talked about wanting to do a better job. I know you have had people there, but I think this is a good way when there's a fun thing to have something, again, if you're going to be there the next week, for you to be there, let people know that you're going to be there and sort of build on this.
I think that's Recreation that's doing that.
Yes, yes. We could do cross-department work, right?
Cross-department.
Yes. We've heard of that before.
And just as a tag onto that, with regard to our senior programming, both health and recreation, we will be meeting on March 13th with the Health and Welfare Committee. So we'll be talking about that and some other programming, both health and recreation.
Good.
Any other questions for Mr. Rowe? Great, thank you, Mr. Rowe. At this point, we have, we give the public the opportunity to come forward and make comment to the Board of Health. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the Board of Health? Being no rush of people, I will ask for adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Leventhal? Mr.
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Larrier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are now on item number 7 on the agenda, on the main portion of the agenda. Introduction of a new ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 2771-15. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will define public right-of-way and will prohibit the placement of any signs within the public rights-of-way except for open house signs on a limited basis.
Mr. Mayor. It's final? This is introduction. Thank you. I move passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on April 7th?
No,
March.
March 17th.
Point of order? Doesn't this have to go to the planning board? Because it's,
It will get there and it'll be back.
okay. Because I just got my planning board agenda and it's not there.
Okay? That's because they haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
March 17th.
okay, so is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Larry, you're the mover. Would you like to say any remarks about what this is?
Yes, this will keep, basically, this is an ordinance that prohibits signs in the right-of-way. I believe we said it was,
Yeah, I mean, basically,
Yeah.
we're talking about a 10-foot strip from the curb line through back off of it, okay? And as I understand it, the idea was to try to regulate certain signage which has become, a traffic hazard, a visibility hazard, et cetera. So it's not an attempt to stop signage, but just to have people place it within their property line and not the public right-of-way.
and the code committee met and we hammered out this, well, actually, we watched Mr. Desiderio hammer out this language, and we made sure that it was appropriate even to properties such as Mayor DeLuca's.
Any other comments? Please call.
I'm concerned at the size of the agenda of the planning board meeting. I'm wondering what happens if the planning board doesn't get to this matter.
Then it will go off.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I can't, with all due respect, Mr. Ryan, I can't imagine this will take more than 42 seconds of the planning board's time.
One would hope that you're correct.
I mean, it's, the review was merely to say whether it comports with the master plan. I mean, okay, fair enough.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes?
Mr. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. We got a request from the planning board, when these things go over, if they could be redlined to show what the changes are.
They can,
Thank you.
they will.
We have another ordinance on introduction.
Item 8, Mayor, introduction of new ordinance. Ordinance number 2772-15. It's an ordinance, Chapter 209 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood, entitled Rental Properties. This ordinance will exempt the periodic inspection period for newly constructed apartments or dwelling units in excess of 4 rental units from once every 24 months until the 2 State of New Jersey licensing periods after the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
We get a motion,
Yes,
Ms. Larrier?
Mr. Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on its first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on March 17th.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Just, and even though I second, I'm just trying to recall the 2 State of New Jersey licensing periods. I'm trying to recall what that was.
I believe it's 4 years each.
Okay.
So the state would come out, as I understand.
I remember the
Five.
discussion.
I thought it was
just-
5 years.
I just couldn't remember what the 5
5
years.
years.
Okay, thank you.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Excuse me. Getting a little loud, thank you. We have an introduction of another that's been approved, right?
Yes.
5-0.
Item 9,
Item 9.
introduction of new ordinance. Ordinance number 2773-15 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 239 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Streets and Sidewalks. This ordinance will prohibit signs from being placed in the public right-of-way.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I move the passage of this ordinance on its first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, a hearing to be held on March 17th.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Item 10, introduction of new ordinance. Ordinance number 2774-15 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will correct overlap discrepancy in existing ordinances.
Mr. Ryan?
This was an item that was noticed by Mr. Malavasi and brought up to the Planning and Engineering Committee. It's just an administrative correction. Move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, with a hearing to be held on March 17th, 2015.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, can I just understand what this is really?
Yeah, there's like one place that says, this is an example, I don't remember the exact language here. It's like, one place says no parking 6 to 9, and the other says no parking 6 to 8, or something like that.
Yes.
It's just cleaning up some discrepancies that was noticed by the engineering department.
On
In the
Jacoby Street.
ordinance or in the signage on the street?
The ordinance.
The ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the signage on the street is fine, though?
It could be wrong, too.
Could be, yeah, but they'll get them to be correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
We have to
Call
vote?
the roll.
Call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Item 11, introduction of new ordinance. Ordinance number 2775-15 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will correct errors in existing ordinances regarding left-hand turns.
Same thing. I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, hearing to be held on March 17th, 2015.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Item 12, Mayor, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 2776-15, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with Maplewood Urban Renewal LLC and granting a tax exemption. This ordinance will authorize an in lieu tax agreement with the developer of the PSE&G site.
Mr. Mayor, I move passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on March 17, 2015.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Thank you. We have 3 discussion items. The first one is the 2015 capital budget.
Yes. You all received a copy of the projects and the requests, along with my recommendations for a capital budget that brings us into 20%, not taking on debt that is more than 20% less than we are paying off this year in principal. And that's it was asked, requests equaled $4,410,000. The recommendations are $2,603,000. And it's up for discussion or comments or recommendations. I think it really hits your goals, public safety goals, streets improvements, etc.
So, Mr. Manning, I just want to be clear.
Yes.
I know you and I had a conversation about this on the phone, but just for everyone, when Ms. Lester was here from the library, she suggested that the windows at the Hilton were
Right.
first priority.
Yeah.
But you have put here the windows at Memorial Library. So I just want to,
Yes.
you've had that conversation with her, right?
Yes, I had the conversation after I made the recommendation, sent it around. I spoke with her that the fact is we want to finish one project, which is the project we started last year at the Memorial Library with windows. We want to finish it there. Then we'll go on and consider the library at the Hilton Library windows.
Okay.
And that was fine. She,
Okay.
she understood.
All right. And then we talked about adding money for the Bergdorf. Did we do that?
Yes.
Wait.
I thought I saw a note.
You have building improvements.
Yeah, we have building improvements, but for the Bergdorf, we do not have any additional monies. We were speaking about putting, and I sent you around the copy of what it would cost. I know that there's money in some ordinances previously, and there is supposedly money out there from the Friends of Maplewood Recreation. We can make that whole. I forget, I don't have it in front of me how much it is, and that would still come. I mean, we have a little flexibility in terms of the bottom line. If you want to put the whole system in.
I would like to put this, if we can do this. The system came in about $70,000, right?
Yeah, yes.
And I think we're probably short somewhere around 25,000.
So like 30,000.
And I think if you put, is that a building improvements at various locations, or is that, would you?
No, I'm going to put it
specifically-
separately specifically for that.
Okay. And then the other thing is, looking at my notes, we talked about a total of $100,000 for the woodland. Is that reflected in here? Because we had, there were things like...
No, this year, we're looking to do a couple of things there. Wait, I'm trying to catch it over here. Woodland money for event tables, folding chairs, no, we didn't do that one.
Right.
Electric service upgrade, front door, so that's $2,550 plus with the amount that we're going to be paying out of the building improvements under engineering, which would be for the kitchen.
Right.
It would
Comes
be
close
close
to
to
$100,000.
$100,000.
All right. Okay.
And, yeah, and a portable stage, so, yeah, it's, give or take a couple of that. We have questions, by the way, Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan.
Mr. Manning, on the second page of your recommendations, you talk about removing a project because it's an engineering project whose cost is unknown. Does that mean we're not doing this?
No, there's a lot of due diligence that has to be done before we move forward in terms of warranties and all sorts of things. So we are approaching this differently because we have a lot of facts to get. And number one, $12,000 would have been nowhere near what it would cost to replace the particular thing. So until we really know that figure, and it's not an emergency right at the moment.
So what I was
And it may be a warrant.
We're not doing it this year.
We are not.
essentially.
going to. It may be a warranty issue, so it may get replaced.
And so that's fine?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the things that we had, in the process of redevelopment of the post office, there's some infrastructure improvements that are going to go into the village, and there's going to be a little bit of a cost share on that. Where is that budgeted?
Well, I don't have that.
That would be in the sewer budget. We talked about that money would be in the money we've collected in the
So we need to, but I don't have a definite figure, and that's
we don't
kind
have
of-
that.
Yeah, so we haven't decided on what the sewer billing is going to be, but that would be where it would come from.
Right.
All right, that's fine.
All right, so we're going to have to, that's going to have to be an issue of what the sewer billing is going to be, and we're going to have to decide that in the next 2 months. And we'll have, by that time, we should have a general idea of how much to put into that. But there was a mistake. We do put capital money into the sewer budget, but it's for specifically for when we're billed every 3 years for capital projects that the joint meeting does. This is going to be a separate, our own, so we're going to have to account for that this year, or, yes.
Well, if it's not, well,
So that's where it's going to, that's where it should be. I mean, it's got to be paid for.
yeah, I'm not disputing this to be paid for.
Pardon?
I'm not disputing that it
yes.
has to be paid for.
Right.
That's why I brought it up.
You wondering if we should pay for it here?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, I think I'd like to talk to the engineer and make that determination before it. So if it needs to be, we have a little flexibility here. I don't remember exactly how much, but I have to find out from him. If there's a problem, I'll let you know right away.
So this is, just on that, I think we've discussed that it's a good idea to try to divert some of the sewer flow out of the village into this new project. So if everyone's okay, if you can find the money to put it into the capital budget, and let us know what that amount is.
Okay?
Planning and engineering meets Thursday morning. Maybe we can spend a moment or two on that.
Finance meets at the end of the month.
Well, right. I'm
always-
going to get on this tomorrow, so by that day, we should have a general idea.
Mr. Manning, your goal here is to get the sense of the Township Committee agreeing with your
Yes.
recommendations so that you can direct staff to begin to put together the capital ordinance for this year.
Yes, hopefully.
So how long can you wait to know a definitive number and if it should go in here and meet your deadlines?
We'll probably, I think by Friday, we should have an answer, a general answer for that, and we can have the ordinance ready for introduction at the March 17th meeting.
Okay.
So I'm hoping.
Personally think it should be in here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we all agree to that.
Okay, you agree? I'm
I
sorry.
think it's got to go in there, yeah.
Okay.
You got to find a way to find the money for
Yeah.
it.
Well,
Mrs. Larrier, Ms. Leventhal.
I was under the impression that we had discussed on page 2,
Yes.
the police department, their taser-conducted energy devices. I
Yes.
think we had cut that back.
yes. Ask for 8. The
Oh, did he
recommendation is
ask for 8?
6.
Okay, somehow I had in my head that he asked for 6.
No, he asked for
Okay.
8.
All right, then never mind, thank you.
Ms. Leventhal.
Thanks. I thought that our sewer fund had 3,
Components?
right, thank you. 1 was the joint meeting fees.
Right.
In general. 2 was the joint meeting capital every 3 years. And 3rd was our capital.
Yeah, that was what I was under the impression also. But I don't think that the previous CFO followed that through.
Gotcha. Okay. Second question. Is this the time to ask, when we're talking about the capital budget, if there's any surplus in capital?
Well, yes, you're actually going to be voting on that tonight to cancel that balance.
Thank you.
It's about how much?
Pretty much the fund balance of the general capital fund is $474,000 and something. What we are requesting cancellation tonight is about $1 million, which is a separate subject.
So we're going to be talking about canceling a certain amount tonight, plus what we have there, and bringing that in as an offsetting revenue in the 2015 budget.
That is correct.
Okay. Was that in the materials we got today, or is this in addition?
It was the resolution that we got. with
Yeah,
packet.
the resolution
It's in
is
your
there.
packet.
It's been there.
Thank you.
So
Resolution
my apologies.
58.
Don't we need to do that by ordinance?
No.
Cancellation does not have to be on board? Okay,
It's done by resolution.
great, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Brownlee.
Wait, Ron, Roger's
That's for
getting a
me?
call. No.
Brownlee.
I think I made a mention of this at the meeting where the topic was introduced, and I'll support the fact that it's in here, but I just wanted to state again, the pool repairs, which are in here, I think it's 60,000 for the baby pool repairs. I understand from the sense of immediacy why
Right.
it is in there, but on the other hand, I do at least want to encourage maybe looking at the fee structure, looking at something to essentially, let's say, have more for a rainy day or something, because there's going to be things that happen over time, and if we're doing it here because they can't afford it, it seems like there's something at a balance there that it should be able to do it more on its own, if I'm phrasing that properly.
I think
So-
that you are phrasing it
Okay.
very properly.
So I understand, and I understand that it's in here, and
Yeah.
from the perspective of you doing that, I'm fine with that. But with that in mind, I want to somehow introduce that point into the pool fee discussions or something along those lines. That's all.
And I want to say that myself and Mr. Wanderbay we are going to be asking for a meeting with the Pool Advisory Committee to discuss these kinds of long-term issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Uribe, sorry.
Just,
made a mistake.
one of the things that happened was when we did the major improvements, the $1 million improvement, there was an estimate that it was going to be paid over 15 years, and it had to get paid over a shorter amount of time,
11.
11. So we had to increase the fees to cover that. I think what our sense was that we were bumping up against the maximum fees we could charge, but I think that should be revisited. But also, I think all of these sort of outlays that we're making now should be recouped once that
Yes.
major bill is paid, the $1 million is paid. So whatever that is, then we should, before we do anything else there, or as we do other things there, we should remember that we're carrying this debt that needs to be paid back to the town.
Okay, yeah, no, I just don't want to lose sight of
We're not.
that point, and it sounds like that is going to be addressed in the meetings that are discussed. Appreciate that added, the shortening of the term for that added some economic stressors that might not have been anticipated. But again, I just don't want to lose sight of that, and again, it sounds like it's being discussed, so that's all.
Anything else? So we are going to authorize by motion for Mr. Manning to have the capital budget prepared with the inclusion of money, as we talked about, for Bergdorf and also for the proposed sewer extension related to the post office project.
And the discussion, what about the item that you raised about the woodland?
That's it covered already.
It's covered,
Yes,
great.
thank you.
I would move that we approve this as discussed and direct Mr. Manning to proceed with the preparation of the capital ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Manning, you presented to us open space trust fund requests.
Yes. With the requests totaling, from the departments totaling $520,000 and the recommendations for $464,000. And that would mean that we bring in approximately $308,000 each year, or this year we expect to, and the balance would come from the Open Space Trust Fund unallocated balance. So that's what we're asking for.
And that number is the unallocated balance, 476?
Yes. Yes. Now, in this discussion, Ms. Leventhal has brought out the fact that under recreation, item number 5, turf growth blankets are actually, that was supposed to be $50,000, the number underneath that, and actually the recreation master plan was not a request. So somehow or another, I either transposed it or.
So the blankets are 50,000.
The blankets are 50, and I still didn't. I didn't think that they should be funded this year. My feeling is that we should have addressed. This was particularly because of the D. Hart Field projects, and I thought that we needed to address the drainage issue, and we do have money under engineering D. Hart Field drainage project of $60,000. Now, I asked Keith Knutson about this just before the meeting started, after I spoke with Ms. Leventhal, and this is kind of a wish list. He would like to have them. He thinks that they're good, and he said if you didn't get them, that would be okay. But it's up to, the governing body. I didn't think that they were necessary this year. I wanted to wait to see how that drainage issue worked out, because that's really the field that we're most concerned about. These were blankets for every field and every backstop area. So I just wanted to put that out on the table, and it's really up to you to whatever you want to do. And along with the recommendations, if you have any questions or have any comments or want to change things,
Ms. Leventhal, you want to speak to any of this?
I would like to suggest that we put something in for the turf growth blankets. Yes, originally the concept was to completely cover D. Hart Field once the drainage issue was resolved. They are an apparatus that gets laid on the turf, and it keeps a warmth in the earth that allows the grass to strengthen and grow earlier in the season than would otherwise happen. And there was tremendous discussion. I mean, we had our engineer there, we had Recreation and Public Works all discussing this at Open Space Advisory Committee. And the understanding was that the drainage has to be resolved first, but that the goalposts in all the parks, especially this park that isn't really up to its potential yet, take a beating during the season. And if this were laid down at a scaled back cost, then it would really start the next season pretty well.
And there is enough money to fully fund it. I mean,
Well, so the Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee advised us to do it.
they said.
Yes. Just be positive. Yes.
But we all agree that there's this drainage issue that still has to be resolved.
But that's just for the one field, right?
Right.
He's
This comes
asking
in
for them
s-
from all of the fields?
No, this comes in strips, so it would go to the goalposts of all fields, for example, while we wait to see about the drainage and,
$50,000, according to Mr. Knutson, would cover all of the fields that we play. It would be more than that, but can certainly be that.
It seems like a very big expense to see if something works. Is there something we can do in the middle? Is there?
There's yes, $25,000.
Well, if as Ms. Leventhal said, the things
No,
come in,
really.
the things come in strips, right? So if you buy $50,000 worth, you're covering this much. If you buy $20,000 worth, you're covering that much.
until we know that the drainage is resolved, I don't know that we need 50,000. It does sound good, though, to do the goalposts and maybe other patches that are a problem. And there are patches at D. Hart that I don't think drainage is going to solve. I think it has to do with construction. But we could patch different places, and, 25 or 50, or if you want to go with what they put here and they don't spend it all, they'll have to come back next year.
Right, and I'm always one for, all right, then let's go to the middle. You just kind of, I'm a middle kind of.
I would
guy.
suggest 25.
Yeah.
That's what I,
25
think
agreeable
that's
to
fine.
everyone? And we can experiment and see how it works?
yes.
Because
Okay.
while we're trying to clean up the drainage issue, we can find out if they actually work. Then we may not even need them.
We'll probably need them there at that park until the turf really takes hold and goes. And if it's used a lot, we may need it just as a, kind of a prophylaxis for future, for the next season, and make sure that it's there and it's there early.
Okay.
So then the whole, the
It would go up
to
25,000.
$489,232.50.
Right.
You want to move that, Ms. Leventhal?
I do. Else?
No, that,
I move the Open Space Trust Fund budget as recommended by the administrator for $489,000, $489,232.50.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Okay,
right, yes. Excellent.
all right.
Okay.
Next item up is the 2015 budget.
Right, so, we've been going over, we've had meetings, et cetera, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Uribe, who's basically going to give you the news.
Good evening. And, I submitted a report earlier today, which I have to apologize because it was a little bit delayed. I wish I could have done it earlier, but the discussions about the budget are time-consuming, and I just couldn't get it done in advance. And in that report, I was indicating the issues that we may have in 2015 budget, and
Something
Your guests are here. They just came, okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yes, and basically the most important aspect that we need to solve when it comes to the 2015 budget is an amount that we have exceeding the 2010 property levy cap. The levy cap from 2010 is a piece of legislation that caps the amount of appropriations, the amount to be raised by taxes that a municipality can have. And at the moment, we are exceeding that cap in close to $700,000. We have a couple of ways to deal with that. We are still going through the preliminary discussions and looking into all possible alternatives to bring that cap into compliance. But at this point, we may need to use some of the banking that we have had for the last 2 or 3 years. There's some specific calculation required by the Division of Local Government Services. When you don't exceed the allowable amount of appropriations in 1 year, you can bank that, and then you can use it in following years. At this point, we may need to use that alternative because we don't have many choices left. Still, we haven't exhausted all of our resources, but I went in depth this morning with the auditor as part of the discussion. And we came into this kind of consensus that we need to tap that.
So I think that we're looking to, we're going to have a meeting to discuss this after you've had time to digest it, and so we can figure it out. But what we're asking to do is to introduce the budget as it is now, with the increase, and then with the proviso that we will work to decrease and find ways, see what kind of ways, if there are any ways, and we can't really promise that there aren't any, rabbits in the hat. So, so we'd like to introduce the budget on the 17th because it's really actually due, I think, on the day before, or the Friday before, or the first meeting thereafter.
That is correct. The deadline is the 13th, but it'll be considered introduced timely if we do it at the following committee meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm reading the memo. Go ahead.
So my question before about the surplus capital, is that in what you gave us today?
That amount is
Where
going
is
to
it?
be, is going to be anticipated as revenue in the 2015 budget. We took a hit in fund balance, and that's going to make up part of the hit that we took in fund balance. So it'll be anticipated as revenues.
Because in the previous year, we had $1,800,000 that we used from the fund balance. This year, we only had $800,000. That's the maximum that we had, so,
But help me, because if the capital surplus is $1 million,
yeah.
and there's $1 million in the cash surplus,
I'm
why don't
sorry,
we
it
have
isn't a
1.8?
million. It isn't a million.
It's
No.
963.
The capital surplus at this moment is $474,000, a little over $474,000. The $1 million is the cancellation of funded ordinances for the period 1998-2010.
Right, so so you may be mixing them all together, but.
Certainly did mix them up.
Right,
Okay.
but, and that's
So where is
easy to
that
do.
460,000?
It's sitting in the capital surplus fund, right? I'm
And
sorry.
where is it in
Yes,
here?
in the capital surplus funds. That's
Where
right.
is it in here?
It's not indicated there. It's
No,
not
these-
indicated in the memo. That's part of the typical working when you're trying to balance the budget. You try to find surplus wherever you have them. Sometimes you can bring them from a utility to the current fund. In
So
this-
between now and the final, we can put it in here?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that would
Thank
would
you.
have to, yes.
If-
So then so that would bring this amount over the cap down to, what'd you say, it was 400,000?
It's the amount over the cap is close to $700,000.
That's the overage now, but you're saying that the amount that we have in the capital surplus is how much?
No, I think he's saying, if I'm not mistaken, that even with that amount, right?
That is
With
correct.
the 400 plus whatever we're canceling
That is
tonight,
correct.
you're still 700,000.
so
That
this-
is correct.
Okay, all right. So with all of our remedies and money anywhere, this
That is
is
correct.
the final number?
That is correct.
So
It's
where
a
is
solid
it?
number.
No, you don't have the revenue part of that. There's a whole lengthy document on it. It's not, where are you seeing the almost 700,000? Which
No,
would
it'd
be,
400, the capital surplus of
You
400
will see it
something.
here in this sheet, which is the summary of the levy
Okay.
cap calculation.
Right.
This is a workbook made up of close to 15 different pages.
So we don't have that?
yeah, you don't have the individual page that shows you that. But
Okay.
all of these together on the 15 different items that we have for revenues
So-
will show you.
And
I'm sorry, Kathy.
reason it's not here is because this is only dealing with the taxation.
It's part of the equation.
Thank you.
So your offices, you and your office are working on the details of that document. We have to have numbers in place to introduce a budget, but that budget is not going to be the final budget.
Right.
And this is basically a summary of the levy side.
Yes, sir.
Of
Right.
the detailed document that you and your staff are working from.
This is a summary because we're just trying to get your consent in order to work on the difficulties that we're having with the levy cap. Once we get that, then you may have the final document when we finalize it.
Go ahead.
Okay, just so I understand, now, according to the amount that we can go up by 2%,
Right.
correct? Now, there are, I guess you said, the banking things that we can do, and we have always been 2% or less without that.
Yes, we
Correct.
never used the bank.
So, and what you're saying is,
You have to.
the banking that we can do using our banked dollars, that's the only way at this point, before you do whatever you're going to do, that's the only way we could cover this $700,000? Or with that banking, do we still not cover that $700,000?
That would be our best recommendation at this point.
And it would cover the $700,000.
It would cover the
Yes, it would
$700,000?
Well, I thought we could also, because some of this is pension obligation,
Well-
we can exclude, right?
Yes,
There's
there'd
another
be an
part of it. You
exclusion.
can exclude certain categories like pension.
There's an exemption.
It's already excluded in this calculation.
Right.
All of
So
that.
Oh,
that's-
it's already excluded. He's saying that it's already excluded.
So this isn't all in, this,
And you're still.
We did that exercise already.
So
did
all
that
the
exercise,
fixes,
all right.
all the fixes are in, and we're still $700,000
Yes, ma'am.
behind. Okay.
That number right there.
505.
And you're going to share the detailed version of that
Yes.
document with us
Yes,
when
sir.
you're,
When does the budget have to be introduced?
At the next committee meeting.
By law, you mean? By law, by the next meeting. Has to be introduced.
but as usual, we're going to wait until state aid, and we're not
No,
going
we
to
have the state aid
It's
figures.
confirmed already.
But we're not
we
going to
already
finalize until, we don't have to finalize until
You don't have to finalize it.
You don't,
Yeah, right,
you don't have to adapt right away, but you should introduce.
yeah.
So,
You have banks worth $2.5 million.
That is correct.
okay.
So
Right,
meaning
but
that
just,
things you could
just
have.
so we understand, that's not money that we've saved in a bank. That just means that we can tax more.
Right.
It's a taxing authority. We have
Yes,
the
it's not
authority.
money that we, yes.
The authority.
It's our
So we're
ability
ta-
to go up
so,
more.
yeah.
Yes.
So right now, you're proposing a municipal tax rate increase of about 5.6%.
That's exactly what we do not want, so we're trying to bring it down as
No,
low
no,
as
I
we
understand that, but we're introducing it at
Yes.
5.6%.
Yes.
can. Yes, sir.
And we're going to do that by using the cap bank,
That is
tax
correct.
cap bank. And we've already used the exemption, right?
Yes.
But we've never used the cap bank before.
Never used either
We've
of
never
them.
used the
That's
exemption.
why we have it.
Let me explain a little bit of something that is kind of difficult to grasp for the majority of people when it comes to the budget. We don't have many cap exceptions because our finances at this point are so orderly stated that we just can't have those exemptions. We don't have many items of the caps. One of those items that you normally exempt from the cap is health insurance appropriation. The health insurance appropriation, whatever amount, or whatever increase we get from one year to another, we can get it out of the caps. In this case, we are getting a decrease of close to $600,000 just because of the increase in the contributions of employees. Employees this year are contributing over $300,000. And so that doesn't help us when it comes to balance the budget because it's out of the caps. Of course, it has it's a two-fold thing, just to put it that way. You're getting some savings in the budget, but at the same time, you don't have that exclusion from the cap, which makes things complicated when it comes to calculating the levy cap.
In Maplewood, ever since the 2% tax cap, we have operated without using those three, the health, the pension, and the increase in debt. So I totally understand on the health. If we didn't take the exceptions for the pension and the increase in debt, what would the liability be? Or could you give us that? I don't expect it right now.
There's another fact that I haven't mentioned, and it is that in this budget year, we are picking a bill, a hefty bill from 2014. There was an increase in the pension system of over $400,000, which is actually being allocated in the 2015 budget. That's one of the difficulties that we have.
And of course, that's the municipal responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Most
why
likely.
is that so?
Those are retroactive payments that come probably from 5-6 years ago. Sometimes the division of pension, they delay the calculations of the payments that towns have to make, and that's where those bills can come from. And just the only way, there's nothing we can do about it.
So when raises were given and they were periodic and they were known and were known to the state, they just never calculated what the increase would be.
And we never did either and put it away.
Well, we couldn't because we don't know their formula and what was in.
So
We
it's
do.
a cash, a bill comes in, we book it when it comes in.
We submit our analysis to the division of pensions, but it takes them sometimes 2 years to come up with those calculations. Then they send you a retroactive bill 5, 6, or 7 years later.
So let me ask why we had, the stuff we have is that we've been consistent, $1.5 million, $1.8 million surplus, and all of a sudden we're down to 800.
We took a hit in fund balance because we lost the biggest account that we have in the sewer. That is the Maplewood beverage. The joint meeting in some sort of unilateral decision, just move that account from here to Irvington. They decided, well, when I called them, they explained to me that the Township of Irvington made a request for a variance because the discharge of the sewer water was being was in their town. They also made the request based on allegedly the pipes being in their town. And so we just came across with that when I started making some sort of variance analysis about the appropriations and the revenues, and I noticed the chunk missing there. That's over $500,000. And that's what cut our fund balance. It's a pass-through fee, but it was part of our fund balance.
So we can't anticipate it because we didn't get it.
But we don't have it as a cost either, but it's not in the fund surplus.
But that's not how the fund balance works.
That's how it works. Any cash that comes into those accounts goes into
Okay,
fund balance.
Mr. Ryan.
So let's go back to this issue of the pension bill. As I understand what you're saying, in addition to what the usual pension bill is, there was an unusual bump.
Yes.
$410,000.
Right, of a back bill.
Yes.
Is there any percentage in, given that it's so unusual, is there any percentage in trying to smear that out over a couple of years?
You could probably go 1 year. Last time we asked about that, you could go 1 year, but there would
Oh, no,
be
I didn't mean to suggest not paying it, but, so our bills are at a certain level, and then abruptly there's a bump of $500,000. Can we pay $250 this year and $250 next year?
There's a possibility. There's no guarantee. Usually they're due upon receipt. But we could ask them.
It is an unusual circumstance, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you could do that, check with them.
Okay.
See what alternatives we have of paying that?
That bill?
Yeah.
Basically borrowing. And,
Borrowing it?
yes, sir.
Well, that's not what we're hearing. Mr. Manning says that you can
Well,
go
I
a year
spoke with
out.
them last year, and they did say that you got it this year. If you don't pay it this year, it'll be in your bill
For the next year?
for the next year.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I understand that.
As in other words, as the first bill
understand
that comes
that.
with the flat. Yes.
But, we could also raise half the money this year and bank it and raise half the money next year,
No,
as opposed to raising all the money this year.
All right. Check on raising it over time. But the other option that Mr.
borrow it.
Uribe said is you could borrow.
Borrow it. Right. So
Yeah,
I think if you could give us all those options.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, if we find ourselves, if the difference between where we'd like to be and where we are is $200,000, pay them that $200,000 next year.
Well, I hope that it is. I mean,
Well, you
if
know
it
what
were
I'm
that, we'd really be,
Yeah.
the happy days
It
are
doesn't
here
seem
again.
like-
Because that other alternative is borrow to pay the debt. Is that what we're saying?
It's not a debt, but yeah.
A bill.
A bill.
You're borrowing to pay a bill that you owe.
Yes.
Doesn't seem,
It's
doesn't,
sort of,
and-
it's
Yeah, no,
like,
that-
it's like when you borrow to pay off tax appeals.
Yeah.
That's the point. So
Same
it's not-
thing.
But it's still relatively cheap to borrow money, is it not?
Well, yeah, at this point, if we had to borrow, it would be cheap, but if I could, I'd rather
I
pay it
think
off.
it's, I think if
Right.
I could, I mean, just speaking for myself, you have a reasonable sense of that we'd be willing to look at a number of different options. If you came back to us and said, it would make sense to do this on a short-term note, it would only cost that much, and I'd certainly listen to a conversation like that. I wouldn't reject that idea out of hand. Let's look what the numbers are.
Okay.
Well,
then
those are
we'll
some of
also
the things
check
we can
about-
look at. We have a finance committee scheduled for the 31st.
Right.
We can dig a little deeper on some of these.
We can get all of those things together. and-
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
But we would like to introduce at least.
Oh, I think we should,
Yeah, this is going to be a hold your nose and introduce
Yeah.
budget. I mean, typically,
did it a couple times.
yeah, but typically, we introduce at close to where we want to be. We're not, yes.
Okay, I guess that's where I'm kind of piggybacking on that thought. I'm just trying to, because again, I'm also of that mindset that you introduce it kind of close to where you want to end up, and I'm trying to wrap my head around, despite the fact that it's hard work, if we introduce it at this level, because essentially we're not sure how to get it down. How is it going to get easier later? So
Unless we
so
find out that there may be some options around this $400.
Or there's a better revenue story in a future.
Understood, but I guess I'm so again, it's not going to get easier later. If anything, I don't want to say it could get harder, but
It's going to be a tough year.
oh, I understand that. But having said that, then I'm again, because again my mindset is around, you introduce it at close to the level you want to end up, and effectively I'm not where I want to end up. It may not be possible to end up where I want to get up, but if it is at all possible, then it seems like I would want to do that first rather than hope that we can get there later.
Aren't we on a time frame to introduce them?
Yes, that is the issue. There's a deadline to introduce.
I understand. We have to introduce it the next meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So is there not the opportunity to do some action between now and the next meeting?
Yes, we're going to be looking into everything.
But we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And at a point, we have to say to the auditor to prepare the documents, we have to pull the trigger on it.
You know what, we have,
But
Desiderio, I have a question for you.
Please come to
We
the
have,
microphone.
we have an advertised meeting Saturday to do police interviews.
Yes.
Is it solely to do police interviews, or can we do any business since we're having a meeting and if we have a quorum?
It's advertised strictly as police interviews.
Okay.
Advertise or emergency advertise? Is there anything like that?
In a day?
I advertised that,
Okay. All right,
As
it was just an
personnel-
option to have this conversation. I actually agree with Mr. Brownlee. I don't like introducing with this gap between where we want to be and where, I know towns do it.
But where you want to be and where you can be are
Well, I
two
think-
different things.
I think we have a difference of opinion,
Okay.
because there's a lot of ways to get where we want to be, and some of them are not pleasant.
The only ones to get to where we want to be are not pleasant.
Well, unless there's something that we agree to do, if there's some leeway of this $400,000, which is an unexpected,
So say there is, say they say, all right, 200, give us 200 this year, or give us the 400 next year.
right.
That's still not going to bring us that close
Okay,
to
but
2%.
But I guess I want to
Brings us
have-
closer.
But yeah, closer. I
Yes.
want to have exhausted those alternatives before introducing.
Okay.
I guess that's, because if there are still avenues to be exhausted, I want to do that before introducing, not after introducing, and then before whatever
So-
the next one is final. So it sounds like there's still other things that, some perhaps unpleasant, to be explored. And I guess I want to do that before introducing, because I want to introduce it as close to where we want to end up being. And if we can only get so close, so be it. But to at least have exhausted everything to try to get to that before we introduce.
But then do we have the option to introduce late? Is that an option
Sure.
that we have?
You can introduce late. You're legally possibly could be fined individually, but
So
it's
by-
only
It was
$25.
her idea. It
It's
was
only
Larry's idea.
$25 a day.
But I
No,
don't,
my question, I'm sorry. My question is, why, if we're gonna, if we can adjust the budget after we introduce, just sort of the same way that we adjust ordinances after we introduce them. If we can do that, why incur a fine? That I don't understand. I personally.
I'm not sure that they would necessarily fine you, but I mean, if it goes on long enough, they might. They can.
And also, I'm sorry, and also, even with this $400, if we were to be able to finagle or parse out the payment of the $400, that still leaves us with 300. that we still have to worry about. Because
Well,
I'm seeing $700,000.
Right.
Well, all right.
You're right.
So,
But we'll be 400 closer.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
But we'll be 400 closer to where we want to be. And maybe we can't get any closer than
but
that, but we'll
nobody's
be
saying
400.
not to get close. No, nobody's saying to.
Okay, Mr. Ryan.
This is not the first year that we've had circumstances like this. The process of changing the budget between introduction and final is well understood and in many ways a lot easier than amending an ordinance that we've introduced and advertised for final. We know that we know that we're not happy with the introduced budget. We know that we want that there's work to be done to bring it to a better place, and we know how to do that work and there's time. Given that, I don't understand why we wouldn't hold our nose and introduce. Yes.
Okay, so it's,
Why
I'm
would-
getting a sense that you're okay
wanna
with that,
introduce.
you're okay with that, you're okay with that. So there's at least enough people okay to introduce at the level that you want to do.
Okay. And you know what? How many points are we above now? What, I mean, money-wise, you said it was 700, almost 800?
Yes, almost 700. Almost 700.
Almost 700.
697,
Okay.
560.
If we get the 200,000 delayed, right, so that's 500,000, and we find $250,000. Okay? That's about the best we could do. That would be 450,000 of the thing. So it would still not be at 2%.
No, we understand that.
Yeah.
We understand.
So would you, that we can do if you know,
Well,
if-
I think there's enough support here to introduce at 5-6.
Okay, all right, but I'm saying that, you know, if you wanted to take this one less step, that's about as much as and
Yeah,
that's
but
based on a lot of things.
But that may not be the only option the Township Committee wants to do.
Okay, then it's better to
So
go
I
at the
think,
full
I
amount.
think we have to introduce it, what you think you bring it to us, we introduce, hold our nose, introduce it, and then when we do a final, we'll look at a lot of options.
Okay,
Well, we got a lot of, we don't want to do it all at once, right? I mean, there's a lot of discussions to have between now and.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
And the first is gonna be the
So-
31st of March at the Finance
yeah,
Committee meeting.
and right, okay.
Is it just a logistical question? If we did not introduce it tonight, and I understand the sentiment is that we probably will, but if we did not introduce tonight,
No, we're not introducing
Not tonight.
not introducing, voting to introduce it.
No, you're not
Sorry.
even doing that.
What are we doing tonight?
You're just discussing and saying, go ahead, get the figures together, get the thing
So
for
if we're doing all
introduction.
that, then why could we not, I guess because we're not having another
Because
discussion.
we're not having a meeting to discuss
Yeah,
it.
okay.
That's the reason. And if there was an opportunity to meet in between now and the 17th, then we could do that. And I think it's just, you know, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, that it's rushed, and we have to do it, and it would have been better to have options before tonight.
Yes, I
Okay.
take,
So,
We're on the same boat.
there's enough support to do what you have to do.
we will get you scenarios
Okay.
to consider.
Okay.
But we'll
right.
go ahead
And
with
maybe-
what it is now.
Yep.
Maybe also all the papers, I know I don't always understand them, but I usually can find somebody to explain them to me. So all the papers that have all the numbers that we need to look at as well.
We'll work with, we'll go over every number.
No, but I think we don't, I think we don't have all the numbers.
No, you don't.
Right.
He's
So that's all I'm asking for.
I will work on it, on a thorough variance analysis. Revenues, expenditures, and explain everything.
Great.
Yeah, I understand the time, just don't like the idea.
I understand, but you know what?
5-6, I just.
Yeah, it's, and you'll have that option next week, your next meeting, not to support that. But it sounds like there's enough people willing to do it, so I think we're gonna have to, it may be a 3-2 vote. We'll see. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of the items on the consent agenda. Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a question. Yep. Where is what we are doing with 44th Street? Is that?
That
I
was
don't-
last week, last meeting.
That was a memorialization.
Oh, okay. All right, that's why we got it, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mr. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Thank
Okay, this is our second public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? Seeing no one, we will move forward. We've received Construction Code Official Report for January 2015. Administrative reports, Mr. Manning,
I do not have a report tonight,
do you
sir.
have personnel?
So I made recommendations on personnel issues to you, and I'm asking if you would give me approval to move on those personnel's issues.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Mr. Desiderio?
Yeah, I have two items, Mayor. The first item, I circulated to everyone on the governing body a request from Verizon and the property owner at 1881, 1883 Springfield Avenue to allow for an encroachment into the air public right-of-way to install some cell antennas as depicted on the photographs which I forwarded to you. I said to council that I would present that and I would get your thoughts and opinions.
Well, yeah. Okay. And I go both ways on this, but my understanding is if Verizon Wireless wants to do something, they can do it. When I was in the Board of Adjustment, for example.
No, that's antennas. The answer is no. Here
This is
because they're
different.
encroaching into the public right-of-way, they need your permission.
Okay.
So you're
Because they're
understanding-
going up. All right, well, it's ugly, but you know what? If people can get better reception, that's life.
Well, the zoning regulations say that you can't disallow them. You can put various regulations on them and right, but you can't forbid them.
You're looking at this completely
Yeah,
wrong.
it's two
Okay.
different things.
This is township property. If they want to go into township property, they need your consent. They need effectively an easement, okay? You couldn't stop them when they wanted to go onto onto private property, like at the country club. All right, here, they're asking your permission. You've done this with regard to other carriers who want to go on lines that are owned by public service or, okay. So what they need is your consent to encroach into the right-of-way. Thereafter that, they then have to go to the planning board or zoning board, I guess it's the planning board for site plan approval, okay? So this is whether or not you, as the governing body, will give them consent. What it is the building is right on the property line,
Correct.
okay? And that's where the issue is.
And so these
Oh,
hang
so
over.
the encroachment
These
is,
will hang over.
So it's an air
the
encroachment.
encroachment is because it sticks out?
Correct. The encroachment is because it's sticking out, so it's the air rights of the public right-of-way.
And because I guess I don't understand why they can't put them on the other side of the building.
I don't know the technical aspects of that.
I mean, they actually don't look that bad, but, because they're, sort of blended in, but I'm not that excited about it.
Can we paint them?
Can you wet them?
Can we paint them?
Can you paint them?
So they've already gotten the
Oh, I see.
permission from the building owners?
Oh, yeah,
Have 'em on the other side.
clearly, that's the case.
On three sides.
The other one.
They're on three sides already.
Correct.
So the only ones that they're really dealing with are the ones on,
Oh, no,
that are
no.
asking us.
No, they have none.
No, but the ones they're asking us permission for are the ones that front Springfield Avenue and the ones that front Prospect Street. The ones on the other side that front the building, that's not our property.
And I guess they're not putting it,
I
up
you know
to
what?
avoid
I
height
don't know the
problems.
answer to that. If it's two sides or three sides.
Pictures look like three.
Yeah, there's three sides. And I guess maybe they don't want to put it in the back because that fronts the residential area.
Right.
Oh, boy. What is the timeline on this?
I don't know that there's an immediate timeline. If you want to digest it.
A little bit about this?
Sure, absolutely. You wanna-
Also, I'm sorry.
I had a
sorry?
question about it. Do we get any money
The answer is,
for allowing them to encroach into our right-of-way?
the answer is that it did indicate that there may be some payment.
For us?
What's
Minimal.
some payment?
Minimal was the words that were used.
700,000.
Right. And across the street, there's a building that has these antennas, right?
You know, on the roof is not a problem. The problem
Right.
is if they hang over
No,
into
that
our
I got.
space, yeah.
But across the street, next
Yeah.
to bumper to bumper, there's a building with them going up.
Yes.
Just to see what they look like.
I mean, they are, you know, there are, I think as Ms. Leventhal said, it's going to improve
Well, yeah.
reception.
That actually is my question. Who loses if we say no? Is it the reception for, like, these are cell? I'm not entirely sure
Yes,
what.
they're
Yes.
cell.
So these are for cell, so everybody loses if we say no.
it's
Well,
not a question of-
theoretically.
It's not a question of loss. They're putting in to improve service. So
Well,
if they
nobody
don't,
gains if we say no.
yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Or they change their proposal so it doesn't hang over the 18 inches over the front of the building.
Maybe we should put some balloons up to see.
If you think there's some merit to referring it back to a subcommittee and having them appear before that subcommittee, we can certainly do that. If you think it should go to engineering, planning and engineering, and have them then arrange, I mean, that's up to.
I'm not sure what we do with it in planning and
Roof,
engineering.
why can't, I'd like to know why they can't do it on the roof.
You'd like to know what?
Why they cannot do it on the roof.
Yeah. Why does it have to be hung over?
I'm sorry?
Why do
Why does it have to be
the,
on the side of the building?
the instrument, the antennas have to be hung over the building, on the outside?
Because they had too much to
I
drink.
bet you it's because
Well, I'll
if they
tell you
put
what,
them on the roof.
you know
They had
what?
too much to drink.
That's fine.
They're hung over, yes.
If there were any other questions, okay, would you email them to me in the next
Yes.
couple of days?
Yes.
And then I will incorporate those
Yes.
into a email, and I'll try to get you whatever answers.
I guess one other question I have, is there anything in the SID regulations that require them to appear before the SID? Or get approval by the SID?
Probably. And Mr. Desiderio, since you're taking notes on this, I don't know if you put this in writing necessarily, but getting a sense of what the payment, the order of magnitude of the payment might be, wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I'll ask them.
1 month free.
I don't think I think it's gonna be in the thousands of dollars, not the tens of thousands of dollars. But I
Okay,
will certainly ask them.
thank you.
And my second item, Mayor, was to report to the governing body that over the course of the last several weeks, we have been actively negotiating with the designated developer for the post office site with regard to a purchase contract. And we are prepared to recommend to the governing body a contract, the gross purchase price of which is $1,250,000, and that is based on a proposal of 20 units and 9,000 square feet of retail space. From that $1,250,000, there would be a credit that was always anticipated of $200,000 for the environmental issues, including asbestos removal and the demolition of the building, which would then get that number to $1,050,000. Incorporated in that $1,050,000 is a $100,000 credit towards the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So net amount for purchase of the building after credits would be $950,000 with a $100,000 credit for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Payment to the
Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So that's the proposal. We've kind of been pounding it out for a while, and I submitted to you for comment, thoughts, whether we should move forward, what we should do. The next process, assuming that you're in agreement, the next stage would be that at the meeting of the 17th, we would have on an ordinance for introduction of the financial agreement, the pilot, the 5-year pilot for the site. And then on April the 7th would be the final for that, and the the resolution passing the redevelopment agreement and the contract would be incorporated into that redevelopment agreement. There certainly would still be contingencies in the contract. There's no mortgage contingency, but there would be contingency for site plan approval. It would have to go before the planning board. The projected closing date is July 15th of 2015, and there would be a 90-day extension of that date, provided that the developer was diligently working towards getting his approvals. And I skipped, he's got to go to the Village Alliance first, but then he would go to the Village Alliance, then to the Planning Board. So the Planning Board process can take multiple meetings, both in terms of presentation and final adoption of a resolution, and then there is a 45-day appeal period thereafter until the approvals become final. The developer would need to have all of those dates satisfied before closing. So that's the proposal.
And the calculation of the purchase price was based on an appraisal that we received?
Yeah, and the appraisal went back some time, but it was based upon a cost per unit price, okay, and then a cost per square, on a basis of
Retail
square footage.
space.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryan?
Let's just be clear that these arrangements are all, these agreements, I should say, I'm sorry, are all particular to this deal. If something were to happen and the project would change substantially, or if something were to happen and the developer would withdraw, all bets are off, all deals are gone, and we'd essentially be starting over again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and let there be no mistake, the financial agreement is a key factor in it. If the financial agreement doesn't get passed, there's no project with this developer for this project.
Okay. So the question before us is should we authorize you to move forward with preparing the redevelopers agreement and financial agreement based on the negotiated sale of gross $1,250,000 with a $200,000 credit, and of that balance of $1,050,000, $100,000 is a payment towards the affordable housing requirement.
Correct.
Let's get a motion to, if we can get a motion, we can vote to have Mr. Desiderio move forward with the preparation of the necessary papers. I'll move that.
Second.
Any discussion?
So if you could just repeat the schedule. We're going to have an ordinance introduced in...
This is the best scenario, and I say that because there are moving parts here.
Sure.
Next meeting, March the 17th, would be a ordinance to introduce the financial agreement. That would be then for final on April the 7th. On April the 7th, you would also have a resolution approving the redevelopment agreement. Assuming both of those passed, you would then have a binding financial agreement, you would have an agreed upon redevelopment agreement, and incorporated in the redevelopment agreement would be the contract of sale. Okay? All of those documents would then be signed. You then have a developer who's committed to this project, the township is committed to the project, the financial agreement is done, okay? Then it's still subject to all of the approvals that are necessary to get the site plan approval. So if in this process, the site plan is not approved for whatever reasons, then the deal is done, the developer gets back his deposit, and it's over.
And your sense of, again, I understand your caveats about best case scenarios and moving parts. What's your expectation about when the developer will present the plan to the Village Alliance Board and to the Planning Board?
Under the agreement, he is committed to making a submission to the Alliance within 30 days, okay, and to, as soon as he gets that, to make his submission to the Planning Board. It's my understanding that he already has made a preliminary submission to the Planning Board of the site plan, subject to review and approval by the Special Improvement District.
Not to the Planning Board, to the engineers, right?
To the engineers, yeah, not to the Planning Board.
Review to the Planning Board.
To the Planning Board's engineer, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Ms. Fritzen?
Just one thing, for the agenda for the next meeting would be the SID budget. Since they were both presented to you in January, we have them simply for motion at the next meeting, and that would give us 2 meetings before hearing, so every property owner is notified, and the budget is advertised according to law. So it would simply be a motion accepting the both budgets, and then following through with notifications.
Right, and just make sure that we have representatives from the Springfield Avenue Partnership and the Village Alliance at that meeting for the hearing, in
For the
case there are
hearing, yes.
questions.
But-
And the Township Committee may have some questions before, so they should just be prepared.
You
And
don't need them on the 17th.
Whenever the hearing is going to be.
The hearing will be the second meeting in April.
Yeah, I think that's when we want them. I don't think there's any reason to have another presentation on the budget. Okay.
That's all that I have, Mayor.
Mr. Brownlee, elected official reports.
Just that I'll be having my office hours next Tuesday, March 10th, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. at the Hilton branch of the Maplewood Memorial Library. Again, that's from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. That's my report.
Ms. Leventhal.
At the Environmental Advisory Committee last week, the topic of LEED certification came up, both with respect to the post office and for the Maplewood Urban, the PSC&G site. So the concern with the Environmental Advisory Committee is that we are not going high enough in terms of what we're asking for. That both these sites have points for just certification because of their location, for example, that they're really not putting much green into the buildings itself. So I wanted to convey that here, and if there's, well, we heard from the Green Team today too, but if there's any way in our process to emphasize what the Green Team and the Environmental Advisory Committee are both saying for both of these projects, I think that we should do that, which is, you said the Green Team's statement will go to the developer, and I think we need to do that with Avalon Bay also, and especially since, you know, you can do something like solar and it's a win for them also. Thank you, that's it.
Mr. Ryan?
I have no report this evening, Mayor, thank you.
Larry?
No report, Mayor.
We have 3 items, and then we're going to get to the ABC hearing. First is, we talked last week about the Transportation Trust Fund, and I received, and maybe you have also received a newsletter from New Jersey Policy Perspective that looked at the Transportation Trust Fund impact, and it's just, I just want to talk about 3 numbers. Been 26 years since the gas tax was raised. The percentage of people who earn less than $45,000 who would be disproportionately hurt by a gas tax hike is 40%. And the lowest income group, those earning less than 23%, would be hit the hardest. And the average amount that would be returned to eligible families if the state earned income tax credit was restored would be $124. So clearly, there needs to be something done with the trust fund, but there needs to be an equity conversation as part of that, I think, as we discussed last time. Last Thursday night, I was on a board meeting call with the New Jersey Conference of Mayors, and it is the, I think, agreed upon opinion by those who watched this in Trenton that in the immediate, the state will exercise its bonding capacity to raise roughly $600,000 to cover some of the immediate costs of the trust fund. There is a particular concern on the part of the Assembly, which is up for election this November. 600 million, sorry, 600
Doesn't
million.
sound like a lot of money.
No, 600 million. Sorry, 600 million. 600 million. Yeah, I know. If we just had a few of those millions, right, we would solve this. We'll take 10% or 1%, actually. So anyway, I think they're going to do a short-term thing and try to kick the can down the road, particularly past the election in November. But clearly, there's going to be another discussion about how to do a permanent solution, and we'll continue, I think, to discuss it here and give input to our representatives.
Question. Are again, just in terms of different sources of funding, are tolls a funding mechanism for that as well? I mean, where do the
I don't believe
tolls
so.
go?
I believe that, I think they go to the bonds for the particular roads.
Well, I mean, the transportation fund also.
No, you have, your toll roads are the Parkway to Turnpike and Atlantic City Expressway, and those are their own authorities. So that money goes for the maintenance of those particular roads, as opposed to the general fund for road
I think it's a
maintenance.
covenant. In fact, some of the proposals bumped up against that covenant, that tolls can only go to pay off the bonds, but I don't believe they go, I know they don't go into the trust fund. The other thing I wanted to mention was that the library is having its second annual Ideas Festival starting on March 14th and ending on March 30th. And there's a number of activities that will be held at the library, at both the main branch, the Hilton branch, at the high school. We're going to have two very famous architects speaking there March 23rd. And Mark Morial, who's the former mayor of New Orleans and state representative, and now he's the president and CEO of the National Urban League, and he lives in Maplewood, will be speaking on March 25th. I will be designating that day as Mark Morial Day. And then Saturday, Paul Auster, he's an internationally acclaimed author, is going to receive the second annual Maplewood Literary Award, and wanted to see if you were able to do that, because I'll be out of town on Saturday, March 28th, so we can talk about that. And then my last item is that I too have office hours on Tuesday night, the 10th of March, 7 p.m. here in Town Hall. Yes?
Is there something on Springfield Avenue Saturday?
Yes, Saturday night there is a Black History jazz concert that was postponed from February 21st. So it is at Asta's Gallery, 7 p.m., and it's free, and it is the sort of wrap-up event for Black History Month by the Springfield Avenue Partnership. It's usually a great time. It's really good music, and it's in an intimate setting. And if you haven't been to Asta's Gallery, there's just terrific artwork there that really is just a nice setting to be in and listening to music. So 7 p.m. Saturday night, it's free. Anything else? Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we are now going to convene as the local ABC.
Oh, you don't stay for this? Oh, okay.
Actually, by the podium, you know.
By the podium. Does any member of the local ABC need the packet of the application?
Lizzie, I have 3 packets. Which one should I be using? The one dated February 26th?
I have one dated March 3rd.
Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one?
January 27th?
That was an email.
Looks like that. I emailed it to you, but I have hard copies.
Yes. Yeah, I have that one. Okay, thank you. Sorry. That's the wrong transfer. I got
Where is it?
You just gave it to me.
I'll take one. I took the wrong thing. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Desiderio, are you calling the roll?
Be happy to, if I may. This is a meeting of the Maplewood Alcoholic Beverage Commission, and I'll try to do this in some order. Mr. Brownlee is
Here.
Ms. Larrier?
Here.
Ms. Leventhal?
Here.
Mr. Ryan? Here. Mayor DeLuca?
You have the right mayor, sir?
I do.
Okay, yes, I'm here.
This is with regard to license number 071144010006. Mr. Decker, would you please put your appearance on the record?
Scott Decker from Decker and Finchler in Parsippany on behalf of the purchaser.
Mr. Decker, there's a rumor that you actually have come from Canada for this hearing. Is that correct?
Sir, yes, sir. I live there.
I think this is a first, Mayor. I'm not sure that we've had someone. But you are admitted in New Jersey.
Yes, I am. I'm not practicing in Quebec.
You're not practicing.
I live in Quebec. Love brought me to Quebec. I lived in New Jersey my whole life and met a girl and moved up to Canada.
Is that right?
Yep, but I still practice in Parsippany.
Good for
So
Do a lot of
That's
real
a, that's a
estate.
long commute, Counselor.
Yeah, you know, with transactional law, you don't really have to. I don't do a lot of court work or
There
anything
you
like that, so.
Are you familiar with Rob Ford of Toronto?
I
Mayor?
sure am.
Do you think
He's not
we,
my buddy.
Do you think we run a different meeting or a more
No
congenial
comment.
meeting? Yeah, no comment, okay.
Don't want to mention his name.
All right.
Mr. Decker, it's my understanding that you represent Wine Barrel Maplewood LLC. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And who are your clients and who is going to testify?
Okay, you want to do it, Atul? Or yeah, this is Atul Gupta and Kavita Gupta. They are both members of the LLC. Atul Gupta will be testifying.
Gupta is G-U-P-T-A, is that correct? Okay. Would you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gupta, you're intending to buy this license, is that correct?
Yes.
And where are you going to put this license?
We have two places. We are
Would
working.
you get closer to the microphone, please?
Yep. We are trying to work with two people. One is the 1886 on Springfield Avenue, which was original a bank, Terra Bank, which is closed now. There's open space available. So once we get approval from the town about the license, then we can proceed with them.
Okay, so for right now, this is just going to be a pocket license.
Yes.
You don't have a specific place to do it, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you ever had a liquor license before?
Yes.
Where have you held a liquor license?
Right now we have in Boonton a store.
In Bloomfield?
Boonton.
Booton, I'm sorry, okay. Okay.
That's a current. It's in running.
And this is a limited liability company. Are you the managing member of the company?
Yes.
And who are the other members?
My sister-in-law Kavita Gupta.
Okay. Your sister-in-law is also a member. You're the two members of this,
Yes.
is that correct? Okay. And where are the source of funds for this license coming from?
Personal savings from both of us.
Okay, so you both have contributed to this, and there's no loans involved in this, et cetera, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and are you familiar with the limitations that Maplewood puts on distribution licenses? Let me go through them, because I need you to make sure that you understand them. Licensee will voluntarily post notices at the cash register, which will advise customers that consumption of alcoholic beverages on the streets of Maplewood is forbidden by town ordinance. The township clerk will provide the notices. Are you aware of that?
Not 100%, but I will.
Okay, well, even if you're not aware of it, you have to agree to it. Okay, so what basically we want to make sure is that there are signs posted that you can't drink on the streets. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, the licensee will not offer straws or extra paper cups to their customers. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay.
Paper cups or bags?
Paper bags, I'm sorry, paper bags, I apologize. Licensee will not offer free cups to customers. I gotta cover them both, okay? Licensee will not ice down 50 milliliter, 100 milliliter, or 200 milliliter bottles of liquor or individual cans of beer. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. Licensee agrees to maintain the areas in or about their store and keep it free of debris. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
No liquor will be sold in any container commonly called a miniature. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. No beer may be sold in single quart-sized container. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. You understand what the township's trying to do here, obviously, is
yes.
trying to stop people from coming in and buying small containers of 1 cans of beer
Right.
and then drinking them on the street. All of that is acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. It is my understanding, members of the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, that the applicant has complied with all of the ordinances of the township, has otherwise complied with all the requirements of the statutes of the state of New Jersey, has made appropriate statements, assuming, let me just ask that. You have checked with all the liquor companies, and you're satisfied that all of the bills are paid for this present license?
Yes.
And you understand that if there's any outstanding bills, that you're assuming those by virtue of assuming this license? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Fritzen advises the applicant has received a tax clearance from the state of New Jersey. That being said, members, if there are any questions, I tender the witness.
Yes, I have Mr. Gupta. Could you describe the business? You said you were in the retail liquor business now?
We have a store in Boonton Township. It's under the Buy Right Discount Liquor's name. It's about 5,000 square feet. We sell beer, wine, and hard liquor.
Okay. It's under the trade Buy Right?
Yes, under the trade name Buy Right Discount Liquors.
Okay.
And, I mean, that's a franchisee.
Right. Do you anticipate having a franchise here, too?
No.
This will be your own?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll keep that franchise?
Yeah, that's a separate.
And there's no compete clause or anything?
No, this is a totally different
market.
Market, yeah.
Do you anticipate selling anything beyond alcoholic beverages?
I mean, mostly like on the other store we sell chips, which goes with the chips, candies, chocolates, usually which is used with wines and beers, cheese, crackers, nothing other than that.
No prepared food?
No prepared food.
You don't anticipate doing that? How many people do you employ in Boonton?
In Boonton, we have 3 employees.
3 employees? How many people would you anticipate employing here?
Similar kind of thing. I mean, because we're planning around same size, 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. So I will be here, and plus 3 more employees.
5,000 or 6,000 square feet, that's what you're looking for?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
I'm done.
Anyone else have any questions?
So, you'll be back again for a place, you'll be back again for a transfer to a new place when you settle on
Yes.
which place it's going to be?
If there are no other questions, if I may present a resolution for your consideration. Resolution number 61-15. Be it resolved that the application having been made to the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood to transfer to Wine Barrel Maplewood LLC as a pocket license until a location can be named for plenary retail distribution license number 071144010006. Hereto issued to Cookreja, K-U-K-R-E-J-A Corporation, trading as Boyd and Pantry, and said applicant having in all respects complied with the requirements of the statutes of the state of New Jersey and ordinances of the township essential to the transfer of such license, and applicant having submitted a sworn statement affirming that it will assume all obligations of the transferor, the township clerk of the township of Maplewood is hereby authorized and directed as agent of the township committee to transfer on behalf of the township committee printed retail distribution license number 071144010006 issued to Cookreja Corporation, trading as Boyd and Pantry, to Wine Barrel Maplewood LLC, as approved by the Maplewood Police Department. The following license is to become effective March 3, 2015, and the license will expire on June 30, 2015. Since you have a license already, you recognize that all licenses come up for renewal on June 30. The following shall be adhered to. Licensee will voluntarily post signs, notices at their cash register, which will advise customers that consumption of alcoholic beverages on the streets of Maplewood is forbidden by township ordinance. The township clerk will provide the notices and signs to be posted. So when you're ready to open, Mrs. Fritzen, you'll come, she'll give you the signs to be posted. Licensee will not offer straws or extra paper bags to their customers. Licensee will not offer free cups to customers. Licensee will not ice down 50 milliliter, 100 milliliter, or 200 milliliter bottles of liquor or individual cans of beer. Licensee agrees to maintain the areas in and about the store and keep it free from debris. No liquor may be sold in any container commonly called a miniature. No beer may be sold in a single quart-sized container. Excuse me. Maplewood will continue to enforce the ordinances involved and work with the licensee regarding any complaints they have. Licensee pledges to cooperate with Maple and agrees to institute the voluntary measures described above. This license is subject to the rules and regulations hereafter adopted by the governing body, as well as by the law enforcement authority, as well as by all the statutes of the state of New Jersey and the federal government in such cases made and provided. That is the resolution, Mayor.
I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Ms. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good luck, we'll see you in a few months.
Mr. Gupta, we have someone on staff, Annette De Palma. She does... You working with her? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely want to bring a good store here, competing wine library. So definitely we would like to bring some nice size store to this town. We
Yeah.
can bring, I think, sure, bring a lot of customers from neighboring towns, like Short Hills or Milburn.
Right.
So hopefully we'll try to do our best.
Yeah, well, I think with the place you're talking about up there at Prospect and Springfield is, you know, with the parking is a big issue. If someone can get parking and run in and get the liquor, plus, I think it's, you know, it's a high visibility corner.
Yes.
And so, but if that's not, there's some other places that we could help you think through where you might want to be that are of that size.
Yes.
You're looking to be a tenant?
Yes.
Yeah, so, we can talk to you if, you know, as you think through, stay in touch with Ms. De Palma.
Okay.
And we can give you more information on some things we know about that aren't public yet.
Right.
So, okay?
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Mr.
Thank
Chair, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you on March 17th. We will be wearing green for St. Patrick's Day.